The secret side of me, I never let you see. I keep it caged, but I can't control it. So stay away from me, the beast is ugly. I feel the rage and I just can't hold it. It's scratching on the walls, in the closet, in the halls. It comes awake and I can't control it. Hiding under the bed, in my body, in my head. Why won't somebody come and save me from this? Make it end. I feel it deep within, it's just beneath the skin. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I hate what I've become, the nightmare's just begun. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I feel like a monster. I feel like a monster. My secret side I keep hid under lock and key. I keep it caged, but I can't control it. Cause if I let him out, he'll tear me up, break me down. Why won't somebody come and save me from this? Make it end. I feel it deep within, it's just beneath the skin. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I hate what I've become, the nightmare's just begun. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I feel it deep within, it's just beneath the skin. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I feel like a monster. I feel like a monster. It's hiding in the dark, its teeth are razor sharp. There's no escape for me, it wants my soul, it wants my heart. No one can hear me scream, maybe it's just a dream. Maybe it's inside of me. Stop this monster. I feel it deep within, it's just beneath the skin. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I hate what I've become, the nightmare's just begun. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I feel it deep within, it's just beneath the skin. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I'm gonna lose control, it's something radical. I must confess that I feel like a monster. 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 I feel like a monster.
Hey.
What's
That
up?
was awesome tribute.
That's right.
So,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've got Mr. Sawman himself, Chris Snyder here,
Yeah.
talk his favorite franchise and a franchise that I am hit or miss on. So this will be fun.
Oh yeah.
And wait, hold up. I'm getting something here. I don't know what.
Hello, YouTube. I want to play a game. The men you see before you have committed an awful sin. You all have been waiting for a Saw franchise ranking. But now, the time has come. They have never given their Saw ranking before this. In order for these two to live, they must, in a respectful manner, rank all 9 movies. They have 2 hours. If they fail to complete this task, they will die. So I ask you, is this franchise worth your own life? The choice is yours.
Motherfucker.
Shit. God damn it.
Thought I was done dealing with this guy.
Guess not. Guess
Jeez.
now we're.
Well, I guess he's got to go here then. There. Now he's in frame.
Yeah, me too. Being happy somehow. So I guess we gotta get on with this franchise ranking.
Yeah, I guess we got to.
Yeah. Well, since you're the guest, I will let you go first before anything bad happens.
All right. So in 9th place, the worst of the worst, bottom of the barrel Saw movie, I have Saw the Final Chapter, aka Saw 7, aka Saw 3D. Easily, in my opinion, the worst one. Like, And I don't put blame on any particular individual for the movie being so bad because it went through production hell. But yeah, I could see what they were trying to do. It just didn't work at all for me. So
Yeah, I watched that one for the first time this year.
I'm sorry.
And I was doing that to get ready for Spiral. And I started watching it, and then because I didn't have time to watch like all your watch along live streams. Which, by the way, guys, if y'all are watching this, he has done watch alongs for all of the Saw films.
Yep.
So go check those out. I have the link in the description.
Thanks.
Subscribe to him. So yeah, I started watching it, and right off the bat, it was so bad. I literally was like, I'm going to turn on Chris's stream. I did that, and then it helped me go through it. It helped me get through it.
I'm glad I helped somebody get through it because I was having a tough. Go back if you watch that watch along. I'm having a tough time getting through it.
Yeah,
it's bad.
It's shot, and that's my number 9, obviously too. But it's shot like it's a fan film, almost like a poorly made.
Yeah,
film.
Yeah.
Because there's even fan films out there that are better looking than this.
Yeah.
And it's like, and this is shot like a poorly made fan film.
Yeah.
They
shot it with new 3D cameras at the time, so they shot it in 3D. It didn't get post converted into 3D like a lot of movies do. Now they shot this one in 3D with 3D cameras, and along the way, something got fucked up with the coloring. I don't know if that's just because their cameras just didn't work with Saw's color palette and style that they've been doing for 6 movies now. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there, but the coloring just looks pink blood. When your blood is pink, it's a bad sign. It's not good. So
yeah, that's not good at all. And I have this movie to blame. Okay, because Cary Elwes is one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, he's great.
He's great. I have this movie to blame because obviously, like the first Saw, it's like, oh, okay, this guy had a good start in the horror scope.
Yeah.
And then right when this movie came out, he's agreed to sign on to this. Then came Black Christmas, and then came other awful things that he started. And it's just like, I feel like this was the movie that kind of cursed him.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. You were in the best Saw movie and the worst one. So that's kind of a cool distinction, I guess, in a way.
Guess.
But yeah, and the acting. Oh my god. Like the Saw movies, like they don't have the best acting, like aside from a few actors throughout like the acting's just kind of mediocre for the most part. But you expect that in a Saw movie. Saw 7, by far the worst acting I maybe have ever seen in my life. Like it's that bad. It's terrible. The writing is atrocious. The delivery is a crime of how they delivered a lot of these lines. Like it's, there are some stuff that I do like in it. It's very slim to none, but and again, it's not nobody's fault really. There was a lot of things that went wrong with this movie, so. I do still have a bit of appreciation for it, but this is definitely the one I pretty much skip over whenever I'm like marathoning these. I'm like, when I saw 7.
That's probably why you were regretting doing your watch along because you had to rewatch it for your.
That was the one I was dreading the most, and I knew from day one. I'm like, the day I get to Saw 7, that's gonna be.
You're just like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. I've noticed with like this. My Bloody Valentine 3D, all these things. This is around the time that everything was trying to bounce off of the success of Avatar.
Yeah.
Avatar was so big and stuff, and 3D in that was actually amazing. But like everything that came out afterwards was just being a gimmick, trying to be a cool knockoff or whatever, a ripoff of what Avatar did.
Right.
So this is one of those things where blood splattering out at you.
And I was excited about it. I'm like, okay, cool. This is the last one. It's the final chapter, and they're gonna do it in 3D. Like that could be really cool because blood and blades and all these kinds of shit will be coming out at the screen. Not exactly. Yeah, the 3D. It's like it was 2010. That was the trend. Every movie that was coming out in 3D, either being post converted or shot in 3D. So, but I thought, Saw should be fun, and I really liked My Bloody Valentine in 3D. Like I seen that one in 3D in the theater, and that was a lot of fun. So I had hopes going in to Saw 3D. And yes, Saw 3D. The 3D is terrible. The 3D, and because I followed like all the I was on the message boards and we followed like all the cast and crews, social medias and all that at the time. Way different time than it is now, but we still we kept up on that shit. And they swore that the 3D was going to be used in benefit of the film and the story they were telling, and they weren't just doing it to get on the 3D trend and it was going to be a gimmick. That was total bullshit. So yeah, they're liars on that one. I gotta call them out. But yeah, it's bottom of the barrel, easy for me. Number 9, Saw the Final Chapter. That's
well, Filthy Dan. And by the way, we've got 9 people watching tonight. We got a stacked room. We got Horrorhead Heather, Dana, Carter, Filthy Dan, Ross.
9 Saw movies, 9 people watching. All right, I like that.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Gotta keep it at 9, people.
Yeah, I swear to God, if a 10th person gets here, throw them out.
We're going to have fun. All 3D is number 8 for now. Sure to be 9 soon. Oh, okay. When I first read that, I almost thought you were.
Oh yeah, because he hasn't seen Spiral yet.
He hasn't seen Spiral yet. So
yeah. So for right now, that's still his worst one because he doesn't know what Spiral.
Who knows? What if he's like Mr. Controversial over there and he puts it even under?
I hope not. I hope not. And that's the thing. Like, even the people who didn't like Spiral, and we'll talk about Spiral a little bit later, but even the people who didn't like Spiral, they all pretty much agree it's still better than Saw 3D. So, I mean, that's still a positive going. And I think Saw 3D is still going to be the last one for you, Dan.
Yeah. And then, so that was both our number 9s. What do you have at number 8?
At number 8, I have Saw 5. Now, Saw 5, like I said in the watch along, it's not that I have anything bad to say about it, more so than I have nothing to say about it, because I feel like this movie is just nothing. It's boring. The Saw franchise has always been like a big soap opera. It's like a big TV series. Saw 5, I like to refer to that as the filler episode. You're getting from point A, from the end of Saw 4, to point B, which is the start of Saw 6. Like, it's just a little bridge in between Saw 4 and 6, and like the main game, like there's no relevance of that whatsoever. Some of the Hoffman stuff is cool, some of the Strom stuff is cool, but overall, like this movie's just kind of nothing. And it's not that it's a bad movie; it's just a boring movie.
Yeah, true. Saw 5. I don't have that at number 9, but I will say Saw 5 is definitely one that is not like a 10th. Destiny, get out of here! No, okay. A 10th person came in here. No, we can't be having we can't be having you wrecking the moment here.
To clarify, yeah, we just established that there's 9 Saw movies and there were 9 people watching. I said if there was a 10th person here, we gotta. I'm just kidding. So yeah, that's the context of that.
Destiny, you can stay. You can stay.
She can stay.
Yeah, we'll make an exception for you. And then let's see. Miss Carter says, speaking of 9, she says 9. Good grief! I gotta watch 9 songs. Well, good thing about Spiral is you actually don't have to watch any of them if you want to go into seeing that film. So.
Nick's got a point. He says, but number 10 is in the works, so he's got a point there.
Yeah. Oh.
So
he says don't. He also says don't go.
And there you go. You can definitely stay.
Definitely. Wow, what a warm welcoming.
I love you. You know that.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, Saw 5. I'll get to a little bit more, not too much more down, because my number 8 is one I watched the Saw movies. I remember I watched the first 2 when I was really young, and then like I watched I think part of 3 or maybe all 3. I don't remember quite well, but then I remember I think I jumped like a awful number. I think I jumped to like 6, and then I jumped to trying to watch on like cable one night. I didn't get to finish it. I only watched like some of that, and then I watched Jigsaw. Like the first 20 minutes, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah,
and that's the thing is, I was hoping it would kind of, I guess, be just kind of like that, like Friday 13th or any of those type of franchises where you can still jump in on a film and still get like. But I will say this: one thing I respect about this franchise is it forces you to have to watch all the films prior in order to understand. Other than Spiral, because Spiral is its own standalone thing,
right?
Every other film kind of forces you to have to watch all of them in order to really get that.
Yeah. And I will say that is a positive and a negative at the same time when it comes to Saw franchise. Like personally, I love it. I'm a big sucker for how good the continuity is in Saw for the most part. And I like that you can. It's like again, it's like a TV series you could just binge through. But at the same time. Yeah, if you randomly start with something like Saw 4, Saw 5, you're going to be completely lost on what's going on. You're not going to get it, and you're going to be like, uh-huh. So it's a positive and a negative, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, because my number 8 is actually going to be Jigsaw. I watched that film, and it's not all bad. Like, the traps are, really cool and unique and different. It's just boring to me. Like, I don't know. It really just goes along, just doesn't really go anywhere for me. I don't know. It just is really boring. And I also noticed, like, this is what, and we'll talk about when we get further into it, about Spiral, but all the other films as well, too, is I kind of liked how all of them had a little bit more of an indie feel to it.
Yeah, like lower budget
budget type of thing. This tried to feel like it was trying to be some big blockbuster in the Saw universe. I don't know why I felt that, but that was just something I kind of felt, I guess, with like how big they went with the traps and like the whole laser thing they had around the guys, and that whole thing, and taking it to like a whole other type of direction with it. I don't know, and it was too crisp looking. Like I've always liked the kind of graininess of the Saw universe.
Yeah,
the way that it kind of I really love the.
It's that dirty, grimy, gritty feel to I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and Jigsaw it didn't have any of that for me, unfortunately, and so that's my number 8.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Jigsaw is they took 7 years off and they decided to come back. So I get that they wanted to try something different, be different, shoot it more cinematically. And, I appreciated the fact that it was more cinematic and we got to see more of the outside world a little bit. Because, again, if they wanted to come back, they wanted to do something different with it. And I appreciated that. I do like the barn stuff, like all the stuff with the main game in the barn. That stuff I really enjoy. It's the procedural stuff that I'm not that big on in that movie. I just don't care. It's a beautiful looking movie. Like, I think it's shot very well. I'm kind of with you at the same time. I did miss that gritty, dirtier feel that the other ones had. But at the same time, like, I get it. But
and for me, it's one of those things where, because even in some of the other sequels that we're going to be talking about, the detective stories are always a little bit more engaging and interesting. And with Jigsaw, I just never felt really engaged and interested in that aspect of it. The stuff I just couldn't give two craps about the way it was executed and done. So
I get it. I'm staying on topic. My number 7 is going to be Jigsaw. It might, and honestly, with this ranking, this is what it is right now. It could sway a little bit if you ask me on a different day. Right now, I still have it at number 7, but after seeing Spiral, I could see it going over to number 8. So for right now, it's still at number 7 because of stuff. Like I said, I like the barn stuff. The stuff that they used with Jigsaw in it, with Tobin Bell, I thought was very well done and very well executed. Visually, I do like it. It's just again, it's boring. The procedural stuff, it's boring. Another positive I have to throw, the Eleanor character is a character I really love. I want to see more of that character. And so there's some stuff I like about it. There's some stuff I don't. It's kind of middle of the road, I would say. But again, after seeing Spiral, it's just now more unnecessary than it was before. So it might go down to number 8 after I think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I can get that. It was one of those that I also watched fully for the first time this year, and yeah, it was just. I mean, it has its moments, but like you said, but it's overall, yeah, it's just not.
Yeah.
Thing. For me, we actually right now are closer than I thought we'd be, because right now my number 7 is Saw 5.
Okay. All right.
It's just. I mean, like you said, I still am not a fan of it. It's boring.
It's filler.
Forgettable filler, yeah. And there's like literally, it's so forgettable. I watched it recently, and I'm trying to literally remember it right now. I don't even like fully remember it. Yeah, it was that forgettable, but it was, yeah. And I will say that as I was watching the Saw films, I was going through them, and while I have issues with some of the other sequels like 3 and 4 and all that stuff, I will say that watching 5, I was like, this is the first genuinely bad Saw movie. Like as I was watching it and stuff, so it was, yeah. And so to me, it's impressive and it's staple of the franchise when you can say that your first genuinely like bad movie in your franchise is the 5th one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got what it was trying to do, but it just wasn't fully there, and the execution was off for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's confusing too at the same time, because you have the whole stuff with the housing and the Fatal 5 and like all that stuff. It's like, wait, are you trying to connect it to this, or is this something different, or like what are you doing here? Like I said, Saw 5, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just nothing. Like Saw 7 is the only one of the entire franchise I would consider bad. That's just me. Like that's the one. Like I consider that movie bad. Saw 5 is just like nothing.
Yeah. It's like that one. It's like an episode in a television show that you're watching, and there's just that one episode that's just trying to explain everything.
Yeah.
To do that, and you're like, I don't need this. This isn't necessary. This doesn't drive the plot forward. So you just literally go and want to skip that episode and go on to the next.
Yep.
That's sort of like what happened.
I mean, yeah, I understand. Like you have to explain who Hoffman is by this point. So I get that whole thing. And like I said, a lot of the Hoffman stuff I liked. A lot of the Strom stuff I liked, but I thought it could have been executed much better and done in a better movie. Like they could have done that so much better.
Yeah. Nick Cooling. Wow. He said, I prefer 5 over 4.
There's some good stuff in 5. I'm not gonna lie. There's genuinely some stuff in there that I do like. Like for instance, the opening trap, the pendulum. Like that is one of my favorite traps in the entire franchise. I love that trap.
That trap confused me.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to go back and rewatch it again, because the whole thing with Jigsaw's thing, and I know he's dead by this point, but someone else is trying to live on his legacy. This isn't the same type of killer that was in Spiral. He still gives you a chance to be able to live.
Sure. Yeah.
So watching the opening one, I was like, he did everything he needed necessary for him to live and get out of that.
Yeah, I can explain that if you have questions.
Yeah, that's one question I might need answered.
Okay. So the guy in the opening trap, he killed Hoffman's sister. He went to prison and then he was released. Like 5 years earlier or something like that. Or no, he was supposed to serve 25 and he only served 5. So once he got out, Hoffman, this is before he worked with Jigsaw, he set it up to make it look like a Jigsaw murder, to blame it on Jigsaw, take the heat up, to make sure that he wasn't involved in any way. So yeah, that one was straight up murder, and that was for revenge. And then Jigsaw recruited him after that because Jigsaw didn't like him taking his like work and credit and shit like that, and so he's like, oh, and then there's one point where he's like, the blade on your pendulum was inferior. Like he like shits on him for it too. So it's great.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's true. So yeah, Destiny says, wait, which one is 5 again?
that's the one with the 5 people, and they have to go room to room, and he had the British Jew, and he's like, I'm an investigative journalist for the Herald, which I like that guy a lot. That's another positive about stuff like it's the one where Strom's in the water cube, and then he starts, talking. I talk like this the rest of the movie, like that one. That's 5.
She also says, wait, Jigsaw's dead?
Oops.
Sorry, spoilers, guys.
So the only one we're not doing spoilers on is Spiral, right? Like that's the only one we're not gonna.
Yeah, for the sake of crew here, because and Dan and all these other people in the chat.
Right. Let's not do Spiral spoilers, but I think everything else is fair game.
Yeah, I think because the other ones have been around for long enough to be
yeah.
spoilers for. So
no Spiral spoilers in the chat, guys.
Yeah, not yet. Anyways, once I do a Spiral. Once I do a Spiral spoiler discussion, then I will. That's when you're allowed to do all that. Mm-hmm. I don't know when I'm going to get to that. Probably I want to wait till Dan and all these other people have a chance to really see it, and then I'll probably get to doing a Spiral spoiler discussion. Man, try saying that 5 times fast. Spiral spoiler discussion. That's like Spiral spoiler. Great day. That is, yeah. So we are on number 6, right?
Yes. My number 6 is gonna be, and from this point on, like I genuinely think these are all anywhere from like a 3.5 to a 5 out of 5 rating. So these are all solid here going forward. My number 6 is gonna be Saw 4. Saw 4, it's one I really like, but you could definitely start seeing the dip in quality by this one. You could tell there was new writers coming on for this one. It's still Darren Bousman directing, but you could, it starts to have more like that fan film feel to it, like we were talking about earlier. This is when that kind of really starts and kicks in more. I do love Rig. I love seeing this being his movie. Like he gets his time to shine finally. Like I like seeing Eric Matthews back, and we get more into Jigsaw's backstory. And there's some stuff about that I didn't like, but just having that as the way to keep him around for the remainder of the movies, I appreciated that. Like I'm like, oh, this is how we're gonna keep using Tobin Bell. All right, cool, let's do it. So I really like that. The traps is my biggest complaint in Saw 4 because I don't think the traps in Saw 4 are all that memorable. And there's one in particular that's just gross for the sake of being gross. And they tried to go for shock value, and I didn't like that at all. Because that's not what Saw was really. So I'm like, okay, this is going a little too far. So, but there's still a lot of great stuff in Saw 4, and Saw 4 has one of my favorite twists in the entire franchise. So, not the reveal, not the who, not the new accomplice reveal. I'm talking about there is a twist involving time that is one of my favorite twists of the entire franchise. So I really like Saw 4. I don't remember what I gave it when I did the watch along, but I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. Like that one's pretty solid. That one's up there.
Yeah, that is pretty solid. Speaking of twists, that's one thing I'll say is, other than the final chapter, literally like all the movies, even if they're not good, some of them have like really great twists.
Yeah,
they're always known for that. Giving out their twists and stuff. Nick Holing says, I just have problems with 4 like traps to twist. The whole ice block thing just doesn't work for me.
I hear you. Yeah, like I said, the traps are not that memorable. The who is like they had to set somebody else up, right? So you knew going in that by the end there was going to be a new accomplice or whatever. I thought that was fine, but that wasn't like the big twist of the movie for me.
Destiny's asking, what's the main trapping for?
The main one, that's with Donnie on the ice blocks. That's in 4. Yep.
Oh my God!
Get Brett out of here.
Not you, Zach Pullman. You're great, but I'm back. Did things spiral out of control? No, we haven't gotten to spiral yet. Okay, get your pun-loving ass out of here. But yeah, my number 6. That's interesting because that's one I'm gonna. We've been on the same track. That's one I'm gonna actually mention down the road later on. So, but my number 6, and I didn't mean for it to be this exact same way, is Saw 6.
Okay.
It's I just the reason why, and this is the first one that is like it's it's not to me like really
Yeah.
a bad movie. It's not a good movie. It's like just right down the middle for me. I don't know. This one, for some reason, I had an issue with the characters. Just like the characters in Saw 6, I just didn't really like any of them. They were all kind of, I don't know, just gross and disgusting and vile and all this stuff. And the main guy, like, shoot, we're gonna get to him later. We thought Jeff was bad. This guy just literally, just I don't know. He just does. I don't know. The main character in Saw 6, I just did not know. I did not like the main character in Saw 6.
Are you serious?
Come
on, man. All right, this is where things are gonna start getting interesting.
Yeah, this is where things are escalating for and actually getting exciting. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like, he just kind of, he was not nearly as bad as Jeff. I want to get that out of the way, but he still just felt like he was not doing anything really. He just kind of sat. I don't know. I felt like he lets just a bunch of people die just because he can't. I mean, I get it. You have to put yourself in a dangerous situation because of what's going on. Like, you have to put yourself in a dangerous situation in order to save other people. So obviously it would hurt a lot to have to do some of the stuff he does. But I'm just like, you have an opportunity to help this person, you have an opportunity to do this, and you don't take any of those opportunities. So I don't know. I was not a fan of him. But overall though, I do like the story that they gave though. The story was solid.
Mm-hmm.
The what they did with it. I thought that the traps were really cool in this one, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was okay. It was an okay movie for me.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go to my number 5, and my number 5 is Saw 6. I love Saw 6, and before Spiral came out, it was my favorite after the original trilogy. Like, I love the William character. Like, I love this guy. Like, he's done some fucked up shit, but he's not a bad guy. Like, he knows what he's doing is wrong. He has to, so he's put through this test, and throughout the process, he's learning the error of his ways, which is Jigsaw's whole thing. I like that we see John himself on the tapes as opposed to Billy. I mean, we see Billy and stuff too, but this one's much more personal for John, and I felt that with that backstory between those two. So I get that it was so personal for him. I like the William character. Again, I think that he tries to save as many people as he possibly can. He's not Bobby Dagan in Saw 3D. Bobby Dagan goes through his whole thing. He learns nothing. He saves no one. This is not the case for William.
Yeah, he's like the worst. Yeah,
he learns nothing and saves no one. William from Saw 6, I think, is the opposite. Where as he goes, he does know that he fucks up, and he does try to save as many people as he possibly can. And then at the end, spoilers, but at the end of Saw 6, you realize the decision of making it out alive is not up to him. It's up to somebody else entirely. And so
I really like that. Yeah.
I think that's a great twist. So yeah, I really like the William character. I like the insurance stuff. It's still topical, and it's going to be topical still for years to come. And that was 2009 when that one came out. So I really appreciate what they did with the insurance stuff. The Hoffman stuff in this movie, I think, is pretty solid. Like, we joke all the time. Hoffman has a very punchable face, but I still kind of like Hoffman sometimes. Like there's stuff that Hoffman does throughout this franchise that I do like. Saw 6 is probably one of Hoffman's strongest points in the series because he's dealing with Perez being back, and they know that he's the accomplice, but they have to prove it, and they want Hoffman there the entire time to watch them get all the evidence, and you kind of like essentially like, shit, is he gonna get caught? Like, is this shit gonna get out there? Like, I really appreciate Saw 6 quite a bit, and the traps, yeah, like I like a lot of the traps, like the gallows, the hanging room trap. I really like that one. The carousel, again, in my top 3 of the franchise when it comes to traps. The shotgun carousel is awesome. Yeah, I really enjoy Saw 6 for the most part. I mean, it's not perfect, but I like it.
I'll give it another watch because I watched 5 and 6 literally back to back, and I started watching 6 at like 2 a.m, and so I was like tired when I was watching it. So I probably should. I'll give it another chance, but Good Real Hunting says the shotgun carousel is awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
and Danner Bo Banner made a pun. Shotgun carousel spun me right around.
you just stop talking to Brett. That's what's going on. He's a bad influence.
He is. Brett, you need to stop affecting the chat. We've got Chad here. Yes,
Chad. What's up, man?
But yeah, the shotgun carousel was awesome. And there was one part in particular, I know she was probably lying and all that stuff.
Oh, when she says, I'm pregnant?
Yeah.
And he goes, she's lying. She's fucking. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I gotta say though, if it was true, because they don't clarify it up.
Right, yeah.
If it was true, I'm like, there has never been a horror movie where a pregnant woman just on screen gets freaking blown to bits like that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was true or not. There's a possibility she was, but the way she's acting, her body language, and the way she's kind of like, I'm pregnant, like she's saying anything to survive, honestly. So that's the vibe I got off of it. But yeah, again, that whole scene, like they're all calling each other out and they're yelling at each other back and forth, like everything about that carousel scene, the music, it's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, it's excellent. I want to do a video. It would be a long one, but I want to do a video of going through all of them and ranking every Saw trap.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
I think Saw 3D has like 11, and then like each, like an average Saw movie has like 5 to 6. So you got like 5 to 6 for each movie, except for Saw 3D, which has like I think 11 if I counted right. So it's a lot. That's a lot, man.
It is. So number 5 is this is where it will be interesting. Number 5 is for me is Spiral.
Okay.
Now don't worry guys, no spoilers for this one.
Yeah, no.
But I will say this. For me personally, this works mostly well when it's being a detective thriller.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that well when it's a Saw film.
Okay.
And the reason why I feel that is because, and I get that they're trying to have this like copycat Jigsaw, but the voice, and this isn't a spoiler because it was in the trailer, but the voice is just atrocious. And the puppet that they used was just not good, and it was I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that kind of stuff, and I can understand where people were saying, like, I watched your spoiler discussion y'all did, and one of the guys was talking about how he liked it because of that and how it was a copycat killer.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, I get that, but if you were going to be a copycat killer, I feel like you would see. The thing is like Kylo Ren is trying to be a copycat Darth Vader, but he actually is trying to embrace the essence of Darth Vader. He has the deep, menacing voice. He has the helmet. He has this and that. He's really trying, but he just knows he'll never match up to Darth Vader.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like I was hoping that we'd get. You don't have to bring back Tobin Bell, but at least give your killer some like menace to him. Just make him scary by giving him such a deep and scary voice. Instead, we get, "Hello, Detective Banks." It's just like,
when was the last time you saw your father?
And then me and the other, my friend who I saw it with, not gonna lie, we were cracking up in the theater when he was speaking. Yeah. So that part wasn't good, but as far as the detective parts, I really admired the directions that it took with that, and like the social commentary it added in there. That worked really well. Chris Rock did well for most of the movie. When he first started, I was like, okay, he is going to like annoy me. This is going to be one of those. I'm trying to be a serious actor, but I'm constantly going to be wanting to make a joke here, and it started out kind of rough, but as the movie went along, he got really good, and I really enjoyed the dynamic between him and his partner. And yeah, and on that part it was good, and the traps were good. Without any spoilers, though, there was one trap in particular I was almost mad at, but then they fixed it and went and did something, and I was like, okay, now I feel better. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good segue, because my number 4 right now is Spiral from the Book of Saw. That is my number 4 right now. Now, I got a feeling if I watch it again, and the more time that goes by, I have a feeling this could bump to number 3 like easily. So, but right now it's still sitting at number 4. I love this movie. Again, not to to talk spoilers or anything. Like you said, the detective story I think it's very character driven. It's very much going back to what the first couple movies more about characters, and the traps are just there. Like the traps will get you in the seats, but it's the story that's going to keep you engaged. And I think they did a really good job with that. I thought the traps were well done. I had the same worry about Chris Rock at the start as well, because it starts off with him doing like a bit from his stand-up, and I'm like, oh, please don't let this be the whole movie. And it's funny, and I was laughing at it, but I didn't want it to be the whole movie. So I did start to get worried there, and then I was talking about in our spoiler discussion that as the movie goes, he gets more serious. So I really appreciated that. Again, as far as the voice goes, I get, he's a copycat, he's a different voice. From a story angle, I get it. I'm not the biggest fan of how the voice sounds just yet. I'm starting to get more and more used to it a little bit, but I'm not the big fan of how it sounds. It sounds like the fucking talk boy from Home Alone 2. Like, credit card, you got it. And honestly, the parts where the voice had me laughing, it was when he was saying Jigsaw shit. Like, I want to play a game. Or when he would go, live or die, make your choice. And I'm just like, okay, I'm laughing here. But I'm still not big on how it sounds, but I think I'll get used to it. I was always one of those guys to say, you need two people to make a Saw movie. You need Tobin Bell in some way, shape, or form, whether that's flashbacks, just a voice role for like just doing the tapes, or some kind of old video or whatever. Like Tobin has to be there in some way, shape, or form. And you need Charlie Clouser. And they got Charlie Clouser back, who has scored all 9 Saw movies now. And by the time the credits start rolling, I'm at a point right now where I was like, you know what? I do miss Tobin. I wish I would have heard him in there. But I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on from Tobin Bell's voice. Like, I'm ready for a franchise of this. I want a follow-up of this. Give me more of this. So, I'm cool with it. Like I said, still not a fan of the way it sounds, but it is starting to grow on me a bit.
Yeah.
And I will say it's cleaned up a little bit in the movie than it sounds in the trailer. Like in the trailer, it sounds horrible. It's terrible in the trailer. In the movie, it's cleaned up a little bit. So, I will give it that.
Yeah, it was. Which is kind of interesting because I remember when I first saw the Child's Play 2019 trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was like the same way at first when I heard the voice. I was like, "Oh, that's the voice of Chucky now." And then I watched the movie. I was like, "Oh, he actually doesn't sound too bad in the actual movie itself."
Yeah.
So, yeah. But Chad says the voice is AF though. Yeah,
It is.
he agrees with me on that. And then Chad also said, "I love when comedians attempt horror. I love the added humor. I don't get why some are hating so bad." Yeah, I mean the humor worked really well. It was definitely the funniest Saw movie.
Yeah, and that's another thing I was worried about too. Is like, okay, I know Chris Rock, he's gonna bring humor to the table, and they flat out said months ago that like, yeah, this movie's gonna have some humor in it. And I started to get worried. I'm like, well, I don't want this to be like a scary movie take on the Saw franchise. So I was actually pleasantly surprised on how well the comedy was handled in this movie. Like they didn't overdo it. The jokes weren't too cringy. Again, when you start off with that first bit that Chris Rock does, I'm like, I got worried. But then, like the comedy's well placed as you go. He jokes when he has time to. When shit gets more serious, he stops all his joking. I thought the comedy was handled pretty damn well. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah. And definitely it works better than a lot of the later attempts. Like there's a lot other attempts at comedy and other sequels down the road.
Yeah.
That it didn't work that way. I think it's due in part to this one actually had a comedian in it who knew how to handle all that. So yeah, it was really good. And Robbie says, I think the voice is fine and fits the killer, not menacing at all, so it's a perfect match.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Good real. Oh, you're still here, dude? What the heck? Okay, so I hated the voice for the trailer, but now I just tolerate it.
That's pretty much where I'm at. It's like, you know what? It's here. I'm gonna have to deal with it. I'm not a fan of the way it sounds, but
that's how I feel about your puns, Brett. Is I hate them, but now I just have to tolerate them.
We tolerate it. Yeah, right. Yeah, I get you.
But yeah, this is about me, except lower. I'd probably give it 3, but. He says, I like Spiral. I don't love it, but it was solid. Just wish the last act was a bit better. I can understand that. But, yeah.
3.25 out of 5. Is that what he gave it?
What, am I not welcome? Well, fuck.
Well, fuck. Yeah, I have Spiral at a 4.5 right now. And like I said, right now it sits at number 4. But I think after I watch it again and the more time that passes, it's easily going to go up to number 3. So
it is interesting just seeing how this movie, a lot more than any other kind of movie in the Saw franchise, really proves the divisiveness of it, because you've got me over here being like, it's okay, and then you've got you being like, oh, I love it, and then Robbie here being like, I liked it but didn't love it, and then Lee, who didn't like it at all. So
I know.
So yeah, there's some out there who are just. It's interesting the different viewpoints on this franchise and different viewpoints on Spiral. It makes for fun discussions with people.
Absolutely. And Spiral has been one of the most divided ones as far as I can remember. Because a couple of them were a little divided as we went, but Spiral is one of the most divided ones in the entire franchise from my memory.
Oh yeah, definitely. Number 4 for me. It switches back and forth a lot, but number 4 is Saw 4. We just talked about. I actually really like this, and 3 switch places a lot. Like I had 4 at number 3, now I have 4 at number 4, so it's kind of like
my 2 and 3 have been switching around a little bit.
Yeah, I could go back and forth here soon, but what I liked about this one that I was missing from 4 or from 3, I mean, is it went back to that detective narrative that made the first 2 so good.
Yeah,
and it had granted more of a cheap wannabe version of 7, but it did have kind of that more Seven-ish type of vibe to it, or more of that like detective thriller
Mm-hmm.
vibe, and I really dug that, and I liked the whole idea of Jigsaw's dead now, but he
Mm-hmm.
still gets to kind of live on
Yeah.
in his doing what he does with the traps and all that, and playing his games and everything like that. He gets to still continue that even after his death. And I thought that how they executed that, because you could have messed that up really bad. Like that could have just fallen down the drain, and they
Mm-hmm.
found a way to really hammer that right in place and do it really well. Um, and yeah, I mean, to me, I actually really like the characters in this film, especially our main character. I actually really loved the social commentary esque of that,
Mm-hmm.
where he was kind of forced to become this bad cop in a way,
Yeah.
you know, and by through Jigsaw and everything. And so I kind of liked that whole spin there that they did on it. And you know, they brought back, even though he didn't do much, they brought back Donnie Wahlberg. So that was really, that was really fun to see, and so I loved seeing him back.
Mhm.
And the ending twist was really interesting.
Yeah.
I really liked that one a lot. So yeah, it's a really solid entry for me.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand, which trap is it that you think was just gross for the sake of being gross?
It's the fucking rapist trap in the motel. That one I feel like it just pushed it too far. It's like, okay, I don't need this. Like
It
this is not the shit I want to see in a Saw movie.
it did, but at the same time, knowing what that guy did and knowing he's like an
Yeah.
awful,
Yeah, but I feel like they were just doing that just to like yeah, you want this guy to die, don't you? But it's like I don't need that. Like you're doing fine with the other people. Like just stick with that.
yeah, I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was very disturbing, but it was a great movie still, in my opinion. A really good one. Four through one are all, to me,
Mm-hmm.
good films. Good.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about them. So
That's how I feel from 6 to number 1. Yep.
yeah. So what is yours?
Number 3, right? That's where we're at.
I don't. Did you? Yeah. Spiral was your number 4, right?
Yeah,
So,
Spiral was my number 4.
So yeah, number 3. Yeah.
My number 3, and again, the second and third position always flip flop back and forth depending on the day you ask me. For right now, at number 3, I'm gonna go Saw 2. Saw 2 again. Everything going forward is a great. Like Saw 2 is still a 5 out of 5 movie for me, I think, or a 4.5 out of 5. I don't remember where I put it, but it's really high up there. It's an amazing movie. Like, and I love that this was just a regular Darren Lynn Bousman script that he was trying to get made, and they said, "Hey, that sounds like a cool idea. We'll throw Jigsaw in there, and we'll tweak some things, and we'll make it Saw 2." I love Darren Lynn Bousman's direction. This is the first one where he comes in, and me and Dan talk about this a few times, but James Wan birthed Saw, but Darren Lynn Bousman raised it. You know, he did Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 4, which are the 3 probably most important entries in the franchise after the first one. And then he comes back for Spiral. So I really like what Darren did with Saw 2. I like the house stuff, but to me, what makes this movie and why it's so high is the interaction between Tobin Bell and Donnie Wahlberg. Whenever it cuts back to them and they're just sitting there talking back and forth, like that's the stuff I'm most invested in with this movie. I think the traps are really good. The needle pit, I love that trap. I love the furnace. You know, they got some really solid traps in Saw 2. Donnie Wahlberg sells the hell out of his performance. Tobin Bell, like we learned so much about the Jigsaw character, and just his presence and the way he delivers all of his lines. It really it sucks you in. So number 3 for me is going to be Saw 2.
Nice. Real quick, people are talking about this in the chat. I want to just throw
Oh, the
out
league thing? Yeah, that sucks, but I'm kind of
League.
laughing on the inside about it. So.
Lee bought tickets to a Quiet Place too. I think it was opening tonight. Wow.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, he posted on Killer Flicks, like, gonna go see A Quiet Place too. I guess he gets there, and then he commented on it, and he's like, well, I'm an idiot. I'm here to see Spiral, I guess, again. And, he didn't like Spiral, so I commented, I said, fuck it, you're already there. Just watch Spiral again. You're already there, and maybe you'll like it better this time around. So, yeah, that sucks, but at the same time, I'm laughing on the inside a little bit. I can't lie.
I must confess, I saw Saw 2 first.
And that's another positive I'll say about Saw 2, because like we were talking about, you can't just jump into like Saw 4 and just start with that one. Saw 2, I feel like you could still start with Saw 2. You'll miss some stuff, and you'll definitely appreciate it more if you watch the first one first. But I still feel like Saw 2 is pretty safe for you to start with that one if you really want to. Because they give you some references and stuff, and you'll be a little lost on some things. But for the most part, I think you can watch Saw 2 and still get most of it.
Yeah, I think you can too. Especially it helps that they pretty much recap the first film.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that does help. My number 3 is going to be Saw 3. And I hate having to match up numbers here again constantly, but Saw 3, like, it goes back and forth with the fourth and this, but it's one of those things where I drop it sometimes a little bit lower than I should, sometimes higher than I should.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just everything that has to do with John Kramer in this movie to me is just so engaging. Just all that part is just so engaging, and I am just in it whenever I'm watching that. The parts, and people have complained about this, that gets me turned off when I'm watching the film is pretty much every single time. I mean, he's just, I don't know, his stuff is unnecessary and just, I don't know. He's just one of the most useless characters we've had in Saw, and there is one trap too, I feel here, that was also like you had an issue with 4.
Mm-hmm. Just gross for the sake of being gross.
Yeah, there's one trap here in specific where it was good for your drinking game, but
Jesus.
But the pig trap, I felt like I was like, I don't need to see this. This is gross. What is even going on now? Like, that was one of the things that did kind of bother me. And also, like, it was a cool trap, but it was really hard to watch. The one that, like, the guy was in where, like,
the rack, the twisty trap. Twisty Tim, as I like to call him.
Twisty Tim, yeah.
Twisty Tim, yeah.
Yeah, and so it had some really solid traps. It was just mostly that pig one. But I will say, this to me, other than obviously the first will always have the best twist of all time.
Oh yeah.
I think that this one might have the second greatest twist in the entire franchise.
Twist wise, yeah. I mean, I'd have it a little bit lower twist wise, but because I think there are specifically 2 others that pop into my head right now that I would put right after the first one, and then maybe this one. But yeah.
Which other ones are that?
Well, I say Spiral not really because of the twist, more of just like the ending in general. Like, again, without spoiling anything, I have not been affected this much by a Saw ending since the first movie when it comes to Spiral. So Spiral has a really good twist. Saw 4, like I was talking about the time twist in Saw 4, like that one, aside from the first one, and aside from the twist in the first one, Saw 4 is my favorite twist. But Spiral might have my favorite ending after the first one. Like, it's weird. It's weird to explain, but yeah. So I would put like Spiral and Saw 4's ending right after the first one, and then maybe Saw 3.
The reason I love Saw 3 so ending so much is just the explosive nature.
Ha!
Get it?
All right. Yeah.
Making Brett happy there. No, but it was like there were some of the twists. For the most part, I don't see really them coming in this franchise. But there's been some examples I did not see in Saw 3. I was like, oh shit!
Yeah.
When like she gets shot in the neck, and he's like, and the test all along was for,
which that is a great twist. I love that twist so much.
Like, yeah, that twist at the end where he's like, I was testing you and all that. I was like, oh, what? That was
when you realize like the whole trilogy, Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3 was basically her test. Like it's like, wow. Like that one, I was like 3 times in a row. They, like I said, I made a joke in one of the watch longs. I said, this movie's subtitle should be Saw Bitch You Thought. Because there's a lot of bitch you thought moments in the Saw franchise, particularly with the first 3. Yeah, so I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, and it just continues with like, I mean, the best way they could have taken out Jigsaw, him being like, you have a final test of forgiveness to forgive me, and it's like kind of, it makes you, while I'm still not a fan of the character, it makes me admire what they were doing with that and how he was testing Jeff to forgive those who wronged him. And so he's like testing him to forgive, Jigsaw at the end. And, well, he can do it. And it made his wife's head explode. And that was pretty gnarly. So, Good Real says, "What a twist!" I think he's referring to Spiral. But.
Twisty Tim, yeah. Oh, I thought he was talking about Twisty Tim from Saw 3.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know if you're being serious talking about a twist. I don't know if
I think he's talking about the rack. That's fucking
you and your puns, dude.
Unbelievable.
Says the pig gut trap. Way to remind me of work. Oh shoot! I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so Saw 3, it's a very solid entry in the franchise.
Solid, yeah.
Solid, yeah. That's right. So what's your number? Well, actually, your number 2 is.
My number 2 is Saw 3. I love Saw 3. Like, Saw 2's fun, I love fun. I love how it's a bit more of a bigger scale than the first movie. Saw 3 kind of goes back to more smaller scales in a lot of ways. I think for overall the traps are fine. There's some really cool, like I really enjoy the chain trap. Carrie's ribcage trap, I really like that one a lot. The rack trap is a good one as well. Freezer room's okay. Pig vat, it is what it is. But it's like you were saying, it's kind of like with Saw 2. Like, I'm much more engaged in whatever's going on with John and Amanda and Lynn. Like, in that sick room. Like, that's where I want to be for most of the movie. And I am mostly a Jeff defender. I defend Jeff for the most part. I do agree with you guys in certain moments. Be like, okay, yeah, he's way too slow here. Or this is, like, pointless. And this is just boring right here. Like, this is filler. There's definitely those times where I'm like, yeah, I get that. But for the most part, I do defend Jeff. Because, like I said, I just enjoy the way that things play out by the end, that it makes me appreciate what Jeff went through a little bit more. The John stuff, again, really good. I love the Amanda stuff. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, Team Hoffman and Team Amanda. I'm on Team Amanda easily. Like, I could watch that character all day, especially in Saw 3. After she's revealed, and then you get more of their relationship and how they are with each other. And I made a comparison that Amanda is very much a Harley Quinn type character for John. And I love that. I love that she's kind of like his Harley Quinn, and she's going through all these emotions. Like, she's unsure about some of the decisions, and she's kind of like going against him on certain things. And another thing about Saw 3 that I really appreciate is the finality of it, because it's the one where James Wan and Lee Winnell pretty much checked out. They're credited as executive producers for the rest of the franchise, but they're just sitting there collecting those Saw checks now. But by Saw 3 was the last one they were creatively involved with. And you can tell, and I love that everything's wrapped up in a neat little bow. Like if you wanted to end the franchise here as this trilogy, you absolutely could. And it would still be a great ending to everything that came before it. Yeah, Saw 3 is one I really find myself going back to a lot. It's the grossest one, I think. I think out of all of them as a whole, this Saw 3 is the grossest one, and it's the longest one. And I enjoy, this is where we really start getting into flashbacks, because we have flashbacks for half the first movie. We have flashbacks in the second movie a little bit. But the third one is where they really started going back and explaining the Jigsaw origins in the backstory and kind of how he came to be, and him like setting up the bathroom and putting Amanda in the reverse bear trap. And as this diehard Saw fan, I was eating shit like that up. Like I was like, yes, I'll take more of this. Obviously, the later we go in the series, I felt a little bit differently about it. But in Saw 3, I think it's perfectly well done. So yeah, Saw 3 is going to be my number 2 for right now. And again, like I said, the number 2 spot and the number 3 spot, Saw 2 and 3 go back and forth depending on the day you ask me.
Yeah, and I loved what you said there about Amanda being like the Harley Quinn character, because
very much so.
All she wants to do pretty much is just be loved. That's kind of all she wants. She just wants to kind of have someone who appreciates her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what John Kramer was showing her. Appreciation. Yeah. So that's why she was jealous at the end there, because she wasn't getting the attention she deserved. It's a lot.
That, and you know, they never flat out say it, but from the vibe I get, like John looks at Amanda as like a daughter type character. Like this is like, she's kind of like a daughter to me. Amanda, I think she's in love with John. Like I don't think she looks at him as a father figure. Like I think she genuinely is in love with John Kramer. They never actually say it, but that part where it's right after Jigsaw's head surgery and he's kind of going a little loopy, and he looks right at, like he's thinking of Jill, but he's looking in Lynn's eyes and says, "I love you." And the reaction that Shawnee Smith gives in that, it's like, oh, she's in love with him. So yeah, there's like, again, there's layers that they never confirm but are implied, and that's another thing I just like about the Saw movies in general, is because there's something they try to explain every little thing as we go on, but there are still some stuff where it's like, you know what, I don't need an explanation for this. It's just the seed's planted and it's implied, and I'm kind of figuring that out on my own. So that's another thing again about Saw 3 that I appreciate.
Yeah, it was. I also appreciated the different approach to it that they took, and this was part of the reason why John Kramer was testing her, is because of the fact that Amanda was making traps where nobody had a chance to even get out. They would pretty much just die. Yeah,
but the thing about that is, looking back on Saw 3, because that was the whole point of Saw 3 at the time, is that Amanda's rigging these traps and she's making them unwinnable and all that stuff, and that's why Jigsaw's testing her. But the later you go, they try to explain it it's Hoffman really that's rigging the traps and making them unwinnable, and kind of blaming Amanda for it, and because he wants Amanda gone. But I much more preferred it when we just thought Amanda was rigging them, just because like she's questioning herself all the time in Saw 3. She's unsure of a lot, so it makes more sense that it's Amanda doing it to me.
I don't hate Hoffman, but he's a fine character. But Amanda, to me, she's a much better character, and I get that it made for a great twist, her dying and all that stuff. But part of me wishes that, because they brought back Tobin Bell a lot in these flashbacks. I wish they would bring back Amanda a lot more often. Yeah, me too. I would have liked to see more of that
than
they actually did, because I just loved her and John Kramer's dynamic. It was
me too. And I definitely want to see more of like Amanda and Hoffman in scenes together, like how, because we've seen a little bit of it in Saw 6 of how they're very much going head to head and they don't like each other. That's another thing I would have liked to see more of in the later movies. Let's see, I had another point. I forgot what I was going to say now. Oh, yeah, I was going to say the thing about Amanda, again, that makes me more Team Amanda than Team Hoffman. Hoffman doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He's just a bad egg. Amanda, especially in Saw 3, she's fighting with her morals a lot. Like, she goes to the bathroom and kills Adam, but she feels bad about it. She just doesn't want him to suffer. She does it just so he doesn't suffer. She's fighting with her morals through a lot of Saw 3. Hoffman does not give a shit at all. So like I do genuinely think that Amanda is a good person deep down. I just think that she is just fighting with herself a lot and be like, is this right? Do I do this? Or, is this really the way that yeah, like, so again, it's another thing I appreciate about just the Amanda character in general.
And then Miss Carter, keep it PG. She says, I doubt many men would have a problem with a nice rack.
I certainly do not. No.
Yeah, not at all. Good Real Hunting says, gotta go. See, great stream. See you later, Brett.
Thanks, Brett.
You get your ass out of here. We're getting annoyed by you. Okay.
Get a little filthy. It's time to get filthy. Go get filthy with Fudge.
And then, well, now Chad's taking over for Brett.
Chad, you're fired. I'm
nice drinking, guys.
I'm kidding.
I say I saw that coming, though, dude.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. That's stupid. Hey, I was talking to a friend of mine who he was like, I have yet to see a Saw movie, and I was like, well, now you can see Saw. I was like, Seesaw.
Seesaw. Big missed opportunity with the title on one of the sequels. They called it Saw, and then Saw 2 could have been called Seesaw.
Exactly.
Yeah, they could have. Yep. Big missed opportunity.
Big missed opportunity, which is a good leeway because my number 2 is Saw 2. I am a major fan of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And watching it again, I love directing, I love acting, I love cinematography, but anyone will tell you I'm like a script guy. So when I'm sitting there listening to the dialogue between John Kramer and Donnie Wahlberg's character, Eric Matthews, when I'm sitting there just listening to them talk, that could have been the entire movie. Literally. Honestly,
yeah, like I would have taken an hour and a half of that.
You could have literally just thrown them in, and I would have been completely okay with it. It was just so well done, and while it is complete bullshit that he says he's not a killer,
yeah,
it was definitely some like very fascinating dialogue, and made you think to yourself like, wow, he actually has a point.
Right, yeah.
He's got a point in the fact that this is a man he's dying of cancer. He knows a lot more than what these other people know, that you should value your life and not take it for granted. And by testing people, it's testing their will to live. And it really plays to that mindset of, you don't necessarily agree with his actions, but you can like understand where he's coming from. And I thought they did that really well. And then having the opposing side being Eric Matthews and how they worked that in was really great. And and it's funny because his brother Mark Wahlberg got an Oscar nomination for playing a role very similar.
Yeah,
which is in The Departed.
I'm trying to imagine that conversation when Donnie got Saw 2 and he goes and tells Mark, and he's like, "Oh, Donnie, you got Saw 2, huh? I thought I was gonna get Saw 2. I played detective. What the hell, Donnie?" But yeah, like the Donnie Wahlberg and Tobin Bell, that dynamic, their chemistry was lightning in a bottle. Like that'll never be matched or topped in any of the movies, I don't think, going forward. You can have great stuff, but it's not gonna get to that level, I don't think. Because that's a high fucking bar.
And it really is the one that, out of all of them, kind of feels more like the original in a way, and that with alongside Spiral and stuff, this one feels the most like the original, which I thought was really nice and really just a great way to end. Makes it complete bullshit when people said, "Oh, it was after Saw 1 that it became torture porn or whatever," because watching this was not at all that way to me. It was this was a lot more tame than
Yeah.
than I honestly thought it would be. It was still disturbing, especially knowing that the real girl who played Amanda got some of the actual syringes.
Yeah,
That whole
10,000 needles, and some of them were real. So
Yeah.
yeah. Think about that next time you watch Saw 2.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I think she got like really mad at the studio and like
Yeah,
or something, and like almost threatened to sue or something. It was like really
which kept happening because in the first one, she had one scene in the first one, and like she said she would do it, and then she got really sick. And the day they were shooting, she was sick as a dog, and she's like, "I don't want to do this." They basically twisted her arm to do her scene in the first movie, and I Saw 2 is kind of the same thing with the needle pit. Like she really didn't want to do it, and they basically twisted her arm to do that shit. So yeah, that kept happening.
yeah, it did. But yeah, the twist reveal was great, knowing that she was a part of this, and she, you know, if only Eric Matt. That's the thing that was so brilliant about the ending.
Mm-hmm.
The thing where you're like, oh, if only Eric Matthews listened and stayed in that room with John Kramer, he would have had his son back. He would have had all that stuff. Everything would have gone actually well in his direction.
Fucking safe place. Jesus.
And yeah. And so it was, but and again, that's what a lot of these movies, honestly, have come to think of it. Between Saw 2, Saw 4, and Spiral, they really have a social commentary a lot on police because, again, this kind of deals with how certain police can be abusive towards even elderly people.
Right, yeah.
And because he, in a way, he just completely just goes full brute force on him to try to get his son back.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I mean, I get it. Your son's in this trap. He's kidnapped, but just give the old man a break, will you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saw 2 is a great one.
All right. Well, you could probably tell what my number one is going to be. My number one is, of course, Saw, the original film. My God, one of my favorite movies of all time. This is the movie that kickstarted my favorite franchise. Yeah, I mean, like I like isolation horror, where you're pretty much stuck in one location with a small amount of cast members. I'm a sucker for those kind of movies, and Saw did it beautifully. Two guys in one room. It started the escape room thing going on there, and I was into that. I like that it's like a jigsaw puzzle, like you're figuring shit out with the characters. Because I'm not the biggest fan of when you as the audience find something out, but the characters still don't know yet. It's like, well, come on, like I like figuring shit out with the characters. That is my preference. I like going through the journey with them. It makes me feel like I'm in the movie. And again, like the traps, yeah. Small, subtle shit for the most part. I mean, you do have the head contraption, the reverse bear trap. But there's one of just a barbed wire maze. Then you got like a flaming candle. He's covered in flammable substances, and like the traps, like they're pretty practical for the most part in this first one. And of course, Cary Elwes, fantastic job in the movie. Like I love his performance, his descent into madness from the start of the film until you get to the end credits. Like his whole downward, no pun intended here, his downward spiral, but that he has throughout the movie.
Poor Brett is gone now. He can't.
Yeah. So, and like literally when again, that was his first movie that he acted in, or his first major film that he wrote. So, I do cut him some slack on his acting. Because there are certain spots where it's like, okay, you wrote this, why don't you just do this a little bit better? But at the same time, it's like, well, it's his first time, to get actors like Danny Glover in there for this little indie film that was shot in 18 days that had basically like no budget, like that. If you get Danny Glover for a movie like that, and Cary Elwes, like it's, you got something special on your hands here. And the ending, I've said this many times, it's my favorite ending in cinema history. Like nothing is topped. I'll never forget the first time I saw this. My jaw dropped, and it didn't let up for 3.5 minutes while Hello Zepp theme was playing. And that moment, the moment I'm talking about, but that moment, That's a stand on your feet and scream in the theater moment. Like if everybody in the theater was like screaming, like I wouldn't care in that instance because I'd be doing it right alongside with them. Completely blew my mind. It is such a great ride. I love this movie so goddamn much. So yeah, my number one is Saw 1.
Oh yeah, it's my number one too. And you talk about that ending and just being how everyone would stand up in theater.
Mm-hmm.
While Spiral is my first Saw film in a theater, and that's just such an amazing feeling to finally see a Saw film in theater.
Yeah, it's a good experience.
One of my local cinemas, they play like a lot of older films during during the Halloween season. I got to see like Psycho there. I got to see Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Halloween, stuff like that. So if they ever played the original Saw, I would be there in a heartbeat because I just would want to be there with the crowd. And these movies get a good crowd when I see them at that theater. And so all these people cheering at the ending, game over, and all that stuff.
Oh my god, chills.
Oh, so good.
I've seen from Saw 2 up until Spiral. So from Saw 2 on up, I've seen everyone in theaters, first showing available. And they're always a fun experience now, even though Spiral, because we're in a pandemic right now, there was only like 10 other people in the theater besides me, which was still cool. So, it wasn't as crowded. It wasn't as packed, but Saw 1 was the only one that I missed in theaters for a while. However, I got lucky. In 2014, they re-released it for like a week for the 10-year anniversary, and I got the chance to go see the first one in theaters again. So I've officially seen them all in theaters, and even watching it in theaters, knowing the twist, like it. Again, 10 years later, I've seen the movie 10 years now. Even watching it on the big screen, when that moment happens, like I'm still freaking out just as much as the first time I saw it. Like it's incredible. Everything about the music with the clip montages, how they're explaining everything at the very end there. Tobin's movements when he has that moment. Lee Winnell's reaction, as Chad pointed out in our watch along. The way that Lee Winnell reacts to that, like everything about that is. It's incredible.
It is, and it's just, and it's amazing too that apparently they based not all the things, but some of the actual traps and all that were based off of like childhood nightmares of James.
Yeah, and they're all they all work. That's the crazy thing. Like all the traps work the way they're supposed to. They make them accuracy, of course, but like with the first one, like James Wan built the reverse bear trap himself. He built the Billy puppet himself. So, I mean, obviously the sequels, they had to, recreate all that stuff. But for the original movie, James Wan constructed and designed Billy the Puppet. He constructed and designed pretty much all the traps, especially the reverse bear trap. Yeah, that's all he got Cary Elwes. They showed him that portfolio and all that stuff. He said, Cary Elwes, I'll never forget. He did an interview or something, commentary, something like that. And he said something like, I'll never forget the first time I met James. He had a portfolio with him. And he had the Billy puppet and the reverse bear trap. I'm like, this guy's crazy. And so I read the script. So yeah, it's, the fact that that's, and going forward, all the trap, they build them to work the way they're supposed to. Actor safe, of course, but yeah, that's a scary thought. Like, shit, these things work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, I'm trying to right now, because I love to like craft like masks and stuff like that. I'm trying to out of foam craft the reverse bear trap. I'm getting there. I've picked up my materials and I'm working on it, but I'll be excited to show that off.
Hell yeah, man! I can't wait.
It's such a cool design there, and that this is like a great kickoff for Lee Winnell and because ever since then they've just been delivering gold and they've made themselves into renowned filmmakers in the genre. And they've really built a staple with themselves, and that all has to do with Saw.
Yeah, it all started there, man. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend checking out the original short that they made before they made the feature film, because they shot the short in Australia. It's like 10 minutes long. It's Lee Winnell in the reverse bear trap scene. And that's basically what they use to send to all the studios to get the feature film made. So it's on YouTube. It's about 10 minutes long, and I recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, everything you said about this is the reason it's my number one. It's just, it's iconic. It's one that, I mean, like you were saying earlier, how some of the Saw films don't always have the best acting. I mean, this one holds
Mhm.
up.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you have freaking Carrie Ellis talking about,
Oh my God. Yeah.
it's like in the best way possible.
Yeah. The moment where he realizes he can't get to his family because
Yeah.
he's locked up in this room and he can't reach the phone and he starts like losing his shit. Like, honestly, I'm sure. Yeah, I'd have to think about it some more. But honestly, for right now, that is the best performance I've ever seen Carrie Ellis given his career. Like the moment where, and I know that's a bold statement, but the moment where he truly realizes he's fucked, and it's right before, like as he's getting ready to go saw off his foot and all that to get out, like his performance, and even right after that, like after he's already done it, and he's all, he's super pale and he can't really talk well anymore. He's like, I have to go and get help, like that. So like seriously, like probably the best performance I've ever seen Carrie Ellis give.
And I understand what some people had with like the plot holes in that scene.
Sure, right.
He could have grabbed the phone with his shirt.
Yeah.
And all this stuff.
But I always defended it's like, well, you're not going to think straight in that state of mind.
Yeah.
So like that's my defense for it.
That's how I always thought too. I was like, in that mindset, you're not going to be thinking rationally.
Right, exactly.
And a lot of people, whenever they watch horror, they're like watching it, they're like, oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't make that decision. And I'm like, well, how do you know you wouldn't make that decision? Because you may not be thinking, this way. But yeah.
And another thing that I really love about the first film is he cuts his foot off after he's already lost. Like he doesn't, like, the game's done. He gets the game's done. He's lost, and he still cuts off his foot. So it's like, I don't know what you're trying to do. Like, you should have done that sooner if you were going to do that, because you already lost. Like the game's over. So yeah, like I love that. I love that.
And they should have just ended his story there, because what they did with him in final chapter, I don't know.
Another thing I want to point out about the first one is Mackenzie Vega, who plays Dr. Lawrence Gordon's daughter. She child actors make me very nervous. Like when I'm like, oh, this could go either really good or really bad. Because there's some great ones out there and there's some really bad ones out there. Mackenzie Vega is one of the really good ones, in my opinion, because she fucking sells it. I genuinely believe that this girl was terrified for her life. So the way that James Wan directed her and all that stuff, I love her performance as well, and I think that's underrated. And her performance doesn't get talked about enough or get enough credit. So,
oh yeah, and it was also around the time too that a lot of the child actors were, not as strong. It was not the best time,
right,
during the early 2000s for child actors,
right.
But she pops in, and she's not talked about nearly enough, but she
gives it her all, man.
She was really great. And and that's what I also really liked about it, is without it ever going into because it was all more subtle and more into the whole detective aspect of it. It was
psychological stuff.
It was more of the less you know, the scarier.
Exactly.
They did that whole route with it. I liked how they didn't do anything else, but they still went really dark with the mother and daughter being the hostages and being tied up, duct taped, gagged, all this nasty. It was like, man, that is.
Oh, the moment where he pulls out the stethoscope and starts listening to her heartbeat, that chills. Yeah. I'm like, that's creepy, but I'm loving it. So there you go.
Oh yeah, it was super effective. And then let's see. Miss Carter says it's a whole different story when you're in
exactly
the situation. Yeah,
and it's one thing to say what you would do, but until you're really in a situation like that, you genuinely don't know.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
like I've I've been in situations before where some creepo was like following me, and I was just like, I did like the stuff that probably no one else really should do. But hey, he eventually just left and didn't do anything, so that was good.
Right.
So I mean, there's always those things where you don't know if you'll be thinking rationally. Danner Bo Banner says doesn't Saw 2 technically, yeah, 2 of them.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
yeah, we talked about that. And then talking about isolation horror, Ross asked if you've seen Daredevil.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got the Blu-ray of it. It's incredible. Again, another one of my favorite Ryan Reynolds movies. His performance is incredible. And again, it's the isolation, claustrophobic horror film that I love shit like that.
I actually have been talking to Robbie, and Robbie wants to have, because he says it would just be, he wants to have this because he's like, it would be such a great panel because of his whole, there's 3 different categories of horror fans.
Yeah.
He wants to have him, Destiny, and me, since we're all different 3s. Like he's category 2, I'm category 3, she's category 1. He wants to have us all just talk about isolation horror or something like that. So, and giving our kind of viewpoints on that, and that would be, so hopefully I can set that up sometime soon because that would be a blast to do. Isolation horror is some of my favorites, and and Saw is just one of the best when it comes to it.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's our list. But before we go, I have kind of a more serious question to ask you.
Uh-oh.
This I've been doing this lately on my streams where I will throw in a serious question to someone and want to hear their thoughts. So I am wondering your thoughts on this. I can just know now this is going to be expensive, but I'm well worth hearing it. What your thoughts are on the whole term torture porn and why people call it that, and why people just affiliate the Saw movies with it, and why they don't want anything to do with.
I couldn't tell you. I fucking hate that term. I do. I do. I hate the term torture porn. It doesn't make sense to me, and especially when you're using it to apply it to movies like Saw and Hostel. Like Hostel, maybe there's an argument there, maybe, but even then, like I don't even consider that torture porn either. Like torture porn. The basic definition of torture porn is just a movie that is gross just for the sake of being gross, with no story surrounding the grossness. It's just like, hey, we're gross. Look at this. Saw especially is just like, the torture porn. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, there's traps that they've used the traps for marketing mainly. Like you have to see some kind of death or something in these movies, so they have to do that. They know the traps will bring people in because like, oh, what crazy ways are they going to kill people in this one? But the story, like I said, Saw is very much a soap opera or a TV series where there is so much story and character building and world building throughout the franchise that Saw is the complete opposite of torture porn, in my opinion. And Hostel, like, there's a big story going on in Hostel when you really watch them and see what's going on. I mean, yeah, they're gross, but there's a lot going on in those movies, and there's even kind of some social commentary in there a little bit with the whole thing of, hey, don't go backpacking in Europe type thing, right? Like, that's like the overall message that he's trying to send for that movie. So, yeah, like things like Saw, Hostel, I don't see why they fall under torture porn. I don't even like the term torture porn. It makes me cringe. It makes me roll my eyes. I don't get it, man. I don't.
Yeah, for me, it's just you can just call it like gratuitous if you want.
Sure.
Right. Something like that. But when you are referring to porn, I think automatically of either sex, or I think automatically of something that visually people want to see. And what the Saw movies do is they make a story, and the Hostel movies do it, to where you are turned off when that stuff happens because you're like, oh shoot, I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to see these people being mutilated. I don't want to see these people being tortured and all this stuff like this. And so I just feel like the term makes no sense, and it's kind of an oxymoron on itself when you put two and two together. For me, it's
yeah. Especially Saw. Like when people say Saw is torture porn, especially like that, I get defensive over that one. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Saw is nothing but story. I mean, sure, a couple entries, like say Saw 7, for instance, that was traps and then story after. Like, they took care of the traps first, but for the majority of the films, like, the traps are there just in service of the story. Like, there's a big story going on. These traps are just kind of thrown in there once in a while. Like, again, Saw 3D was probably the only one that I can think of. Maybe Saw 5 a bit to an extent as well, where they thought of the traps first and they thought of story later. And you could definitely see that on screen. Spiral, I think, very much the case in the vein of the first three, where it's character driven, it's story driven, and the traps were an afterthought. Like it's a Saw film, we have to stick in traps, but this is the bulk of our movie right here, is the story and these characters. So I don't get it.
And I mean, going to Hostel, Hostel 2 is actually my favorite.
I prefer Hostel 2 over the first one as well.
Yeah, and that's the one that, is brutal because you have the girl dangling naked upside down and then brutally being sliced, and the girl naked bathing in blood.
Yep.
And I can understand maybe where someone would want to refer to that as it, but
I'd say Hostel I see a little bit more of a debate for.
As somebody who has actually seen, and I'm making a confession here, I want you to know, obviously, I did not enjoy, actually, once I figured out what it was, I didn't enjoy it. But I went onto, I guess, the dark web or deep web one time, and I didn't know I was on there. And I watched, at the time, I was watching a snuff film.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it was a snuff film. I was treating it like a real horror movie. It was like, oh, man, oh, look at that go. Oh, but I could tell.
Shit, this is real.
As it went along, I was like, this doesn't even have like a story. I was like, who's talking about this movie? I comment, and I just see all these comments saying like, oh, you sick fucks, and all this stuff and everything like that, talking about. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, like that shit's scary. I mean, in horror movies, it's one thing because it's a movie. It's just there to have fun. See what fun ways they can decide to kill people. When you go into shit like that shit's out there. That's in the world. That, like, again, Hostel, like pretty much the whole message of those movies is don't go backpacking in Europe. And because that shit is out there, like, people do sick shit like that. So yeah, it's one thing when it's fiction and then nonfiction. You know what I mean? Like, there's real shit out there.
And I feel like the term torture porn, I feel like you could apply that to something like a snuff film that I watched, which was literally just gratuity for the sake of it. It was not even, there wasn't a story there or nothing.
Right.
And a lot of these days in modern society and horror, a lot of people will overreact and take things, saying, oh, it's the bloodiest thing ever made, or oh, it's the scariest movie ever made, or oh, it's this and that. And I was sitting there, I remember when the leaks came out for The Last of Us Part 2. And people were just so upset. They were like, oh, I can't handle these. They didn't bother playing the game yet. They just were already looking at the clips that were online, all the decisions they made. They were already so upset that they were like, oh, Neil Druckmann, how dare you make a snuff film? This is just pure torture porn and yada yada. And I was like, I've played way gorier games than this. What are you guys talking about? This is like baby stuff. I was like, this is nothing. And so they were over exaggerating because they were angry. And I mean, that's the thing is with the violence in the Saw movies and the Hostel films, sure, there's violence that can make you angry and can make you riled up, and you're supposed to kind of be that way, but that's not a reason to overstate what it is and be like, oh, it's something else entirely.
Yeah, it's like Saw is nothing but traps and gore. I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? Like, oh yeah,
And I mean, and that's coming from someone too who I only really liked the first four movies,
right, yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah. So,
But
and
even you acknowledge it's like, oh, there's a big story here. Like it's much more than just the traps and the gore and all that stuff. So
yeah,
yeah,
and that's the thing is most of the people who are complaining are people who haven't even given it a chance. They're
no,
just hearing what other people are.
it's the reputation that the Saw films have that
Yeah.
keeps people away from it. A lot of the times, it's like, oh, the Saw movies. I'm like, trust me, there's a good story here. Just check it out.
Yeah, unfortunately, but yeah. So, well said. I agree wholeheartedly. This is fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, me too, man. You want to just give the quick recap of what our ranking was, in case people forgot what we had for each one?
Yeah. Do you want to go first? Or?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it off. So my number 9 in last place was Saw the Final Chapter. Number 8 was Saw 5. Number 7 was Jigsaw. Number 6 was Saw 4. Number 5 was Saw 6. Number 4 was Spiral. Number 3 was Saw 2. Number 2 was Saw 3. And number 1 was Saw 1.
Nice. Yeah, mine was number 9 was Saw the Final Chapter. Number 8 was Jigsaw. Number 7 was Saw 5. Number 6 was Saw 6. Number 5 was Spiral. Number 4 was Saw 4. Number 3 was Saw 3. Number 2 was Saw 2. And number 1 was Saw 1. So,
All right, there you go.
and hey, and I color me shocked. I thought we would be like way in disagreement.
Well, you got me with the William thing from Saw 6. That was the moment where I was like, okay, wait a minute, buddy.
Yeah, that was the one thing that we did do. I was thinking that our lists were going to be kind of all over the place, not like. But
yeah,
we mostly kind of matched up.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, yeah. There was a few differences here and there, but for the most part, we mostly matched up, which is pretty nice. I mean, yeah.
And that's coming from a diehard Saw fan versus just a casual Saw fan. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
So, yeah, this was a lot of fun. And if you guys haven't yet watched any of the Saw movies, check them out. And also, a great way to check them out, especially some of the shittier ones, is check out Chris Snyder's watch-alongs he did, which were great time.
I recommend it for Saw 7 especially. That'll help you get through Saw 7. We'll get through it together. So.
Oh yeah. And he just reached House of the Living Dead just reached 1K subscribers. Yeah. So that's exciting. They just had a 1K special. Him, Destiny, Chad, they've all done some great stuff over there. So
thank you.
Definitely go and check them out. Have them linked in the description box. Jigsaw would want you guys to do it, or else he's gonna put you on a trap and. That's tell you next, but
there you go.
Yeah, this is fun. We gotta plan something else sometime together.
Oh, for sure. Anytime, just let me know. We'll work something out for sure.
Yep. Well, that'll do it, folks. Remember to like this video, subscribe, share, do everything you can. I'm getting closer to 200.
Woohoo!
Need to get there. We got the big leagues guy here and the small leagues guy here. But hey, I mean, it's we all baby steps, you know. So
yeah, you know what? And I'll be honest with you. Like the first 200 or 300 were probably the most difficult to get, but once you get past that, it's like easy peasy. That's just my experience, though. You know what I mean? So the first 100, the first 200, even the first 300, they're a little. It takes a bit, but it comes.
Yeah,
so hang in there.
And it's also that's also due to the fact that when you're first starting out, you're not as confident.
Right. You got to find your footing
as you go along. You find your footing, gain more confidence in it and stuff, and
I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'll be honest with you. I still don't know. I just get on there and just go for it.
True. But hey, I mean, ever since, because I made this channel like 4 years ago, and it's or something like that, or 5 years ago. But ever since, I would post every now and then, here and there. So I only have like a small amount of subscribers.
Sure, yeah.
But ever since Killer Flicks and you guys and stuff, I've been like inspired to make more stuff. So yeah,
Hell yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Miss Carter says, "Night, everyone. It's been a good ranking. I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Good. Thanks, Miss Carter.
Yep. So that'll be it, guys. Hope you all enjoyed that. Y'all know what to do. Keep on watching those scary movies, guys. Until next time, stay spooky, my friends."